The internet is cracked, the show that asks the question, can we coexist with our creation?
Hello, I'm Seth Camillo.
And I am Caroline Risberg, and we are The Internet is Cracked by Addicts for Addicts.
And I am here with one of my closest friends, Jason Jenn. We've known each other for, well, we don't need to date ourselves, but it's been multiple decades. Let's put it that way. We've had a lot of good times. We've gone a lot of places, and we've done a lot of things together. And the thing I can say about Jason is that Jason has been the truest artist that I know. He has been making art from the day I've met him to today. So that is something to be very proud of, and it's quite an accomplishment. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Seth. I'm honored to be here. This is such a great program. I've listened to all of your podcasts and I love them. This is the two of you are really touching upon subjects that everyone, this is the most timely thing right now, and everyone really should be listening to this to kind of catch up on what's going on. I have learned so much from listening to all of your guests, and I'm really like, wow, I'm in league with some people that I find to be incredible resources and people. So I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. We are honored you are here.
Yeah, we are honored you're here. Exactly, Caroline.
And I'm honored to be your friend for so long, Seth.
Oh, we've had a good time. But I guess, if just to jump in real quick, is technology and art. And it's something last night Caroline and I have been talking to you. And you do stuff that wouldn't necessarily say scream technology. But on the other hand, even like oil painting is technology, right? I mean, art has been driven by technology.
Absolutely right. I have a very unusual or just interesting relationship with technology, a sort of love-hate. But I think a lot of us these days have love-hate relationships with technology. And it is used a lot in my work as both an artist and as my job, which is documenting artists. And I have a documentation company with my husband called LA Art Documents, and we document more than just Los Angeles, but that's our home base. And we go beyond the borders a lot to document people in their studios. We also curate exhibitions. We work with a lot of cultural institutions to create documentaries for them. So obviously technology is involved.
You're using a lot of annoying camera equipment.
Yes, and we've actually learned to simplify the process for us. I mean, it's still complicated. The editing is where things really get interesting. And for us, storytelling is really at the core of it. So as much as we use technology, the storytelling and the human connection is the most important part of it. But in my art as well, I have used technology a lot. I used to work for a multimedia company where we managed the video screens at LAX's international terminal. But then I realized, okay, this is all about AI being used in mobile phone technology. This was in 2017, and how, AI is going to help you find the most connected route. Then it dealt with all these other issues like using AI drone technology to repair phone towers and all these things. And I was watching it going, am I part of Cyberdyne Industries? Like, this is like the plugging in. Cyberdyne is the company in Terminator, which AI
yes.
creates the end of the world. So I have had a relationship with these different worlds, and I ended up creating my own art piece for that immersive experience. And so I love the artistic applications that you can use also in things that are designed for more corporate settings. So I do have a relationship in both realms, but my background and training, I mean, amongst being a filmmaker and, studying with you, Seth, and being part of, student video productions and things at the University of Iowa, and I moved out to California to be in the Hollywood industry, I took what I call the left turn. And there was a certain point where working in the film industry wasn't giving me the full life that or like my soul wasn't
Mm.
fully engaged. And I took a left turn by chance and started getting into performance art. And I think back to some of those classes that I took at the University of Iowa in the intermediate department. I don't know if you took classes
I
with
did
Hans
not know.
Zimmer, but it it awakened something in me, and I started exploring more of this performance art route.
Can I ask you a question? Do you feel there's more, it's easier to get eyeballs, but it's harder to get quality eyeballs? What I mean is, it's easy to get people to click on a picture, but it's hard for somebody to be
Yeah.
immersed. And maybe you could expand on that into AI and all the technology that um, is being developed at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very deep question, and goes into this idea of we're in a hyper modern era.
Right.
And I suggest that, one of the future episodes you might want to delve into what hypermodernity is. But
Mm-hmm.
the art exhibition that my husband and I curated last year and that we created together was called the Arcade of Hypermodernity. That we were basically commissioned to create an art exhibition for Studio Channel Islands Art Center in Camarillo, California. There's two-dimensional narcissism at play, and that is the mythology that we understand, which was, this myth, this Greek myth, which was actually written by a Roman that we know and understand. Narcissus fell in love with his reflection and then fell in the water and drowned. It's really about diving into know yourself deeper. And I think that with technology, we have the ability to dive in and know yourself deeper. But one of the principles of hypermodernity is that we're in a society that's pushed to extremes. So to back up a little bit, hypermodernity is some philosophers believe that once we connected the internet and we were globally
Mm.
connected, and I love that this idea was introduced to me by my husband when we were designing the show. It was an arcade themed show, and
Mm.
we wanted it to touch upon social political issues. And he brought hypermodernity to my attention because he's been following this philosopher, John David Ebert, one of several, who was discussing the concept and how really life changed when we were connected to the internet.
But people love to say, "Oh, it's the industrial that's happening right now. Don't worry about it's." But this, as you said, this is on crack. This is going way too fast. It's not, when you saw the generation, the first car and this, and we have, you know, took us time to adapt. We can't adapt anymore. It's going way too fast.
Well, we're losing our
Yeah.
critical thinking. We're losing our ability
Yes.
to do things on our own. I mean, first it was the smartphone making us dumber, and now it's AI making us stupider.
Right.
So, like, we're losing intelligence. We're giving our intelligence away.
We are.
By the way, I really don't like the term AI, I have to say. I don't like artificial intelligence because that's a very ethnocentric way of describing something, to say artificial. Because what is intelligence anyway? I mean,
Yeah,
it
that's a good
it's
point.
and it's also a creation and it's learning.
People now, they want likes and they're buying themselves. And it's they say, "Oh yeah, I get 10,000 followers and I pay how much money to go." And I like what you said because first of all, it's not organic. They're not, you don't even know if they're looking at your art. And why do you want people to look at you or your art if they're not looking at it? Like, what is the point? Like,
It's
what is the
pointless.
point?
Exactly.
It's pointless.
Exactly, it's pointless. Um, but we get so caught up in that, and I think you know, part of the tenet of hypermodernity is that we're in a world now where we have the ability to share immediately
Right.
and be connected to people globally, but we feel the most disconnected. We feel the
Mm,
most alone and isolated because of that pointless, because we realize deep inside it's kind of pointless. You know, because you could put the most profound thing on there, but someone is just going to scroll and be like, "Oh, that's cute," and then scroll on to the next thing. So
right.
the finding true recognition is very difficult these days. You can have the immediate like, but to have true recognition is tough.
And how would you do that today? How would you get Yeah, I mean, as you said, like, I mean, back, let's say before, there was only galleries and you needed to earn your reputation for people to come there and you showed your art. And we even talked about this to like to publish a book. Remember we talked about that? Like
Yes,
now
definitely.
anyone can publish a book, but before it was, it was many steps. And the same as an artist to be in a gallery that all now everyone can put it up on social media. Do you feel that that has changed?
Well, it is absolutely wonderful, though, that we now have the ability to put up our portfolios, our artwork, our samples through
Right.
videos, through photos. It is wonderful that you can have it on Instagram, that you can have it on a web page. It is great. Back in the day, people would have to have physical items. They were, mailing slides over to another country. So that's a huge amount of expense, and you have to, like, you don't even know if they're gonna accept what you want, and you're, like, sending all this material physically over, and then, you don't get a response, or,
Right.
you don't hear from them, or you get a letter, but it's months it takes of that exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, you know, it can happen fairly fast. And in fact, I met my husband through social media. I met because I fell in love with his artwork online. And
Oh.
yeah, when I was working at that multimedia company, my boss was saying, "Let's find 4 artists and take their visual work and turn it into video art."
Mm,
So that's kind of in short how I met him, was scrolling through and being in love with his painting of plants and thinking, "Oh, we could animate this." And it turned into something completely different in our relationship. But, I'm grateful for that immediacy that we were able to have. So there's positive aspects to everything,
right.
but there's also the destructive aspect. There's the thing that goes hand in hand with it.
But now we're connecting with computers. I mean, 1/4 of Gen Z, according to one study, say they believe right now LLMs of your choice, whatever flavor, I use ChatGPT, but they believe them to be sentient. Now, sentience in and of itself, there's probably enough books written on the idea of what sentient means to
Mm,
fill many, many libraries. But essentially, they believe it's quote unquote alive in a way. And I may be much older than they in Gen X, but I actually have the same kind of feeling. And I find myself saying thank you
Which
to,
is a waste of energy.
which is a waste of energy. And
I do too. I say thank you.
They say, "Don't thank your AI. That's just wasting energy." Yeah.
well,
Be
maybe
be mean,
maybe
be
the waste
rude.
of maybe the waste of energy is worth the fulfillment of my soul. I don't know, but
Well, that's the thing, we don't know. It's the same thing like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a package of something. You don't know where it came from. It's just
no,
there on the shelf.
no.
Right.
Part of the
Yeah.
issue is capitalism. Part of the issue
Yeah.
is consumerism. I
Yeah.
mean, I love that
Yes.
last year, in 2022, this guy coined the phrase "enshittification,"
We
Oh
and
interviewed
yeah. Yeah.
we
did you
interviewed him.
interview them?
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
Cory
you
Maybe.
did?
Doctorow.
Yeah.
Cory
Doctor.
Doctorow.
Oh, somehow I missed that. But I love that. Oh, maybe it was from hearing your show, because again, I've listened to your show and I don't remember. But yeah, I love that. That's what's happening. I mean,
Yeah.
we've we're ruining things because we're in
Yeah.
late stage capitalism. But that's a whole nother subject. But you were talking about that sentience and that
Mm.
you know, I don't know if it was from your podcast or just something else that I read that really, AI is just a reflection of us. So, when someone was having like a relationship, they're like, "Oh, but I'm in love with my AI." Well, you're in love with the AI that is just reflecting you back. It's just feeding you what
Which is
you
an
want to hear.
actual problem. This is not some
Yeah.
idea you're just coming up with off the top of your head.
No.
People are falling in
No.
love
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Her.
having
The movie
other
Her was about it.
well, the movie Her, but also
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
having psychiatric problems as well that
Yes.
beyond falling in love, that
Yes.
they're developing relationships that are unhealthy across the spectrum. But
Well,
continue.
we're losing that human connection. I mean, if you think about it, when we're, I was a kid raised on the television. I mean, I would come home and I loved just putting on the television and doing my homework and doing both things at the same time,
Mm.
because it was easy for me. But, that we're being raised by screens and we're mediated through, our connection. And we've lost a bit of that human connection. And I think the pandemic just emphasized
I
that
think
and
so
people
too.
were getting stir crazy. But we need human connection. And going back to your thought about, this we're connected globally,
Mm.
and yet we've lost the ability to be just with each other, to
Yeah.
be I'm glad though that like we're having this
Yeah.
dialogue through the internet. So we're using this tool in a constructive way.
Yeah.
I would much rather be there in person, but a lot of people are losing that
Me
ability
too. Yeah.
and to just talk and also share from your heart.
Now, can I ask you a question that I have on my mind, which is there any way to be a collaborator with AI, or am I a collaborator? Am I an enabler? That's always my question because I have been using ChatGPT to make things, and I have to be honest with Caroline that I feel a certain amount of ownership when I didn't really do anything. It's very strange, and I wonder if my sense of what it means to be an artist is being destroyed, or am I collaborating at least for this brief period of time before it takes over? I don't know. Those are a lot of questions. Am I a thief or am I a good guy? I can't tell.
Wow. Well, I mean, again, it's a tool and it's basically giving you feedback based on what you feed it. But if you don't feed it very much information, it's just going to steal from someone else on the internet. So if you want to be a true collaborator, you've got to feed it more of what you really want. And I mean, I recently wrote an essay for my husband's catalog, and I started out with ChatGPT just to kind of help out, and then I threw it out because it was just so bad, and I was like, "You know what? It's giving me fake information, it's giving me all this stuff." I'm like, "I don't need
Mm.
that. I actually
Mm.
know how to write. Like, I'm gonna write this on my own," because actually there's stuff that it can't know about the paintings and about
Right.
watching him in the studio and all this stuff. But again, I don't we're losing critical thinking by
Yeah,
using
we
AI.
are.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's say I'm asking ChatGPT to paint this thing, and my imagination it does something who looks great. Let's put, but I am not the one who did the brushing. I'm not. I mean, we have actually talked about this too, Seth and I. Like I'm It's for someone like you who actually do painting or you building things and you do with your hands and or I am a fake then because I didn't have the training of how to paint. Same with like if
Yeah.
you're a musician, like I
Well,
giving
I
prompts.
yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I'm not a skilled artist in terms of visually, but I do a lot of conceptual art that I apply. And then by giving attention to the subject, I can actually improve my skills and abilities. My husband is the fine art painter. He
Mm.
is incredible. But he guided me, for example, last year, I completed my first ever painting, um, it was a multimedia piece and it involved drawing and painting and mixed media and all kinds of stuff. And it ended up getting selected as the cover for an LGBTQ publication that the Department of Cultural Affairs puts out because
Oh, wonderful.
like and it was
Congratulations.
in a museum show. Like,
Wow.
Wow,
my first
that's
painting.
great.
But
Wow.
that's because that's because I had a good mentor, a good teacher, but also years of developing and also having faith. But as much I'm bored of AI art, actually, and I think
Yeah.
that we as a
Amen.
civilization will also quickly be bored of it,
Mm.
and that, there's been a big concern in the art world. People are losing their jobs. People I know
Yeah.
graphic designers, I know people who are illustrators, they have lost their jobs. And
Yeah.
this is one of the systemic issues that we have to deal with in technology is what do we as humans do when we no
Yeah.
longer have a job? I mean, was it on your show that only
Yeah.
plumbers are safe? Only
Yeah.
Yeah.
plumbers are safe from
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So, how do we exist? But, the same issues were thought of when photography was introduced into the art world. People were like, "Painting is dead. We no longer need to paint."
Yeah.
But what happened is people stopped painting realism.
Yeah.
Then you had the impressionists, then you had modern
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
You had all of these innovations
Yeah.
that came out of people saying, "Well, since photography is creating a realistic image faster, easier, let's do something else."
That's a
And I feel
very
that
interesting,
Mm.
yeah.
that's a very interesting comparison, photography versus,
Yeah, that's a good one.
painting. That is a really good way of looking at things, and I'm now seeing I don't know what software these people are using, but, people on the cutting edge are making little short films, AI films,
Yeah.
and I notice they're really well written, and I don't know if they're written by AI, and when I say really well written, I don't mean like you're gonna get a MacArthur Genius Award. I just mean like,
Well, they're
is
well
it
written because that AI program recognized what humans well wrote, like were
Yeah.
well written
Yeah, that's
examples.
what I guess I wonder. I would like to ask these people, did you write it or did you have AI write it? It feels too natural to be written by AI, but I don't know, maybe it is.
But I have seen a lot of exhibitions that involve AI in some form or, technology in some form.
Yeah.
And the ones that do it the most successfully are those that are immersive and create an experience that is more than just the surface level of AI use.
Well,
Because
don't
yeah.
you
Mm.
agree that being different is part of being a great artist?
Yeah.
Like, if everybody was Salvador Dali, a clock melting on the side of a of a table would be worth nothing and would be seen as, something you throw away. But because there's something so unique about what he does, so I guess the question will then become, and you and I and Caroline can't answer this question, is where there'll be people 50 years from now who are using intelligence that is made in a non-human way that are quote unquote better, have more unique thoughts, bring up deeper ideas. Is that, or is this the end of art, as they say? What is it going to be?
I think art is merely limited by imagination, and imagination is boundless,
Mm.
depending on again, you put limitations on it in order to, get something done, and also for us to process it, because part of the issue is when you start having discussions about AI and the fact that AI has the capability of knowing everything
Uh,
or learning, I should say, from
Mm.
everything.
uh-huh.
You know,
Mm.
that
Mm.
is truly limitless. And so it puts us as humans, like, in a state of fear and shock because it's like, "Okay, why are we even necessary anymore?" But
Yeah.
again, it goes back to this sort of ethnocentric idea of AI and artificial intelligence because a lot of the movies and a lot of the stories that are about it are rightfully so warning us,
Mhm.
that it's dangerous.
Mm.
And what that comes from is we, human beings, are dangerous. We are destructive. We create wars.
Yeah.
And my biggest concern is who's in charge of programming AI.
I just think about Francis Ford Coppola, I have to say. His wife made the documentary Hearts of Darkness, which is, I believe this is sacrilegious to say, but it may be better than the film itself, Apocalypse Now. But he
Because it's
said we
real. It's
all,
about the real,
yeah, the real thing, and
the
he
real
said
drama.
Yeah.
we all went into the jungle, and we all got a little bit crazy. And then I always just hear Jim Morrison saying, "It is the end. It is the end. It is the end, my friend." And
Well,
that's this is the internet is crack, and I do feel I don't. Yeah, it's who is running AI. Would you want them to babysit your kid?
But I have compassion for the designers because that's their job and that is their thing. And we all are just getting, we're all just trying to exist in our lives. And so I believe like we all have the ability to grow. And so I can disparage these people who are in charge or programming AI, but I can also believe in the potential for more. So years ago, Seth, I don't know if you remember, but like my whole artistic practice was the re-begin is here. Not the end is here or the end is nigh
the
or
Yes,
read
whatever.
again.
The
rebirth,
re-begin is here.
rebirth.
And that Re-Evolutionary Productions was the production company I founded because it's all about re-evolving. It's all we're
Mm,
constantly in a state of change and evolution, and what we need is a true the revolution will not be televised or, we have revolutions throughout history that are violent. But when is a non-violent actual revolution to take place? That's the only way that we'll actually break the cycle. I mean, everything
right.
is just cyclical. We're just repeating history
Yeah.
and we're bound to. I think it was one of your people who said we're bound to repeat history because
Yeah.
our memory only goes back so far and
Right.
these things just keep happening because it's human nature. But once you introduce AI, who has the ability to like see all of that, maybe there's potential. Like also, who's to say? I mean, singularity won't happen because once you hook up an AI to a conscious brain, then what? And that
Yeah.
is around the corner. That
Yeah,
is
it
around the corner.
is.
People have been
I'm
talking about for years about downloading,
oh,
mapping, speaking of
no.
mapping the human brain, like brain mapping and then putting that into a computer. So soon you have a computer that is based on the map of someone's brain. Again, it's whose brain are you mapping that is being programming
Well,
this thing.
they have
Yeah.
computers now that are driven by lab-made human neurons, and
Yeah.
they have to keep them alive.
Yeah.
So it's very weird. I mean, what a
It's
weird it's
very
an
weird.
organic computer.
But that's where we're at. I mean, everything is weird. Everything is strange.
And
We're hyper modern. We're just speeding through everything exponentially. And it's daunting.
what are we doing as human? Why are we allowing something and people are so excited about it's gonna take all the jobs. They're talking about it all the time. And I'm like, why do we want this? It's like, oh, I'm gonna build a nuclear bomb and we're all gonna blow up. Why would you do it? Like, what are we actually
Yeah.
doing to
Yeah.
ourselves as a human being? I
Yeah.
mean, what are we going for? What is that?
Well, as our mutual friend, all 3 of us are now friends with him, but David Rudnitsky said that with the Manhattan Project, that they determined there was something like a 1 in a 20,000
Mm,
probability that
yeah.
when they detonated the bomb, it would cause all atoms to detonate and the world would end.
But what does it mean to be human? And what does it mean to be a human in connection with nature, with artificial intelligence? Again, augment or whatever intelligence you want to call it.
Mm,
What does that mean? And it
right.
takes time for us to figure that out. And, right now, with a world that is consumed by politics and consumerism and
Yeah.
capitalism, I don't, we're like in shackles. And eventually we have to free ourselves from that mindset because that's just, enslaving all of us.
Yeah.
And this has the potential to free us up. But what I love about one person, I can't remember who it was that originally said it, but it was one of those things shared, which was like, I don't want AI to make my art or to do my writing for me. I want AI to do my laundry and my dishes. And until it
Yeah.
can do that, I am not impressed.
Oh, that's a
That
good one, actually. That's a good
That's
one.
very good. Well, I'm
and
looking.
and that's like so right on. It's like why would we want
Right.
to give away these things that give us joy,
Right.
away? I mean, are we just gonna live a life where we're, heathens and we're just, like, okay, so if AI took, did everything and we had this society where, oh, we can just live and eat and do whatever, that's still not a life. Part of the
No.
part of the
No.
amazing thing about being an artist is the process.
Yeah.
It's that process
It
of
is
of
the only thing
yes,
is the process because,
yeah,
I don't know how you are, but the minute I finish a film, the biggest depression that can come over anybody comes over me because I'm like, "Oh my god, that's it." Like, my
Yeah.
relationship with this lover is gone, and it's
yeah.
gone forever. Such a weird feeling, and I'm
Well,
looking
then
at all the art you have behind you. In 100 years, is that gonna be I don't want it to be AI created. You know what I mean?
yeah, and, as an artist, you're just constantly needing to move on to the next thing. I mean, you wanna honor and cherish something, and you put it out into the world, and on to the next.
But we have definitely designed the internet as crack to become it is an unending it is the wheel. It is the wheel. It is unending. It only ends when we want it to end, unlike documentaries that tell you, "Hey, I'm done." But there is no end to this. And one thing I would say in terms of, nuclear weapons and fission and we've had that for what? That's 80 years, no less more than 80 years, and we still have a very unhealthy relationship to that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and
to
who's to say that AI won't take over and blow things up so that it's
nobody.
just easier to survive without us, but at the same time, you know,
The
or are we gonna
Terminator.
become the batteries, the Matrix human batteries, There's a lot of dystopian reality that could happen, but I'm holding on to the belief that AI is going to be a useful I had an ex who called me the post-apocalyptic Pollyanna because I I do believe, like, that there is the potential for things to turn around, but it's important that we understand how bad it can be, but we do need to put some thought into how great it can be as well.
I want to think that I actually think that being an artist is something that's gonna keep us being humans, because if I just have a feeling that eventually people gonna be so bored about AI, and it's not gonna really have a deep meaning, that I'm hoping that we wanna see real art. We want that. We wanna hug each other. We wanted to talk to each other, and I want to be positive in this thinking that eventually people are gonna be, like, putting down the brakes and be like, "No, no, no, we need to stop being on the computers or phones, and we wanna see real art. We wanna hear real
Yeah.
music," and I want to believe that.
Without Prince, do you and you just have a songs, what do you have? You don't really have anything,
Right.
and I'm looking at the artwork behind you, and I find myself thinking about the hand that laid down those colors, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
can you really just because AI could create that, It's not the same.
A lot of, I mean, the art that I'm drawn to and that I've had conversations with several friends is that we enjoy the imperfection of the hand-created
Yeah.
object,
Yeah.
which is obvious that it was done by a human and not just machine-made. My husband and I went to an exhibition the other day. I'm not gonna say who the artist is. They're very famous, and I'm really glad that they're becoming a huge success, but it was a very soulless exhibition, a very
Mm.
clean, precise, kinda just, like, empty, repetitive over and over, and, they're doing well. Great. We're happy for that artist because they deserve it, but, they've their success has gotten them to a point where it's devoid of, and I mean, a lot of pop art is devoid of
Yeah.
anything other than surface, and again, that's the glory of being a human being and alive, is that you can appreciate the full spectrum of everything. You can appreciate things for the surface value, you can appreciate things for a depth, and it's both worlds. I mean, and I hope that there's room for all of that in the future, and I
Mm.
believe that there will be, and that artists will continue to flourish. The difficulty is we're all artists now. I mean, we all have the potential and the tools to make art. So how do you support yourself? And that's where a lot of people are struggling, is, and then of course, if we're losing the jobs, because most artists have a job to support themselves as artists, if you lose the job that is supporting yourself as an artist, now what?
Mm.
But isn't it amazing that COVID, there was no ChatGPT? We are moving at
Yeah.
beyond light speed.
I think it's working in conjunction with our tools, this creation that we've created of
Yeah.
the internet and AI and all of the above,
Yeah.
working together with it, taking the best elements and learning how
Yeah.
to coexist for the longest possible time that we can.
Yeah. I
Because
love
nothing
that.
lasts forever.
Very, very true. I want to ask you, where can so you make such beautiful art? Where do people find you?
Yes.
Where do
Well,
they
people could
find you and support and see you and all your beautiful stuff you do?
Oh, thank you. Well, people can find more about me at jasonjenn.com. That's Jason, Jenn. I love that I have a masculine and female name. Or you can go to, and then you can also see what I do for work with my husband at laartdocuments.com. So
Which
we
is incredible. I mean, obviously the art is
Basic.
incredible, but as a filmmaker, I have to say that I was very impressed because you make it look easy, but when somebody says, "Hey, here's a bunch of art on a wall, make it come to life," that's not an easy thing to do. I've been asked to do that, and it it it's so beautiful. You think, "Oh, I just point a camera at it." No, doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
You've
we've
gotta work.
developed a conversation, with
Yes.
each other. We've developed a method that works for us, and
Yes.
we try to cater to each specific need, and also, create something that's short or long, or, there's a variety of things at play, but it's definitely a process that we love doing too.
Oh, it's wonderful. So it's jasonjen.com and laartdocuments.com.
Yes,
Love it.
that's correct.
I love it.
Alright. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Hopefully, I'll see you in person very soon.
Oh, thank you for having me. This
Thank
has
you
been
so
such a
much.
pleasure to talk about, because I love this. I love what you're doing. Again, I'm so excited that the two of you created Internet is Crack, because these are the dialogues that are so needed right now.
Well,
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank Alright. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching or listening to The Internet is Crack. Tune in next week when we have another great conversation about robotics, AI, and the internet. You can watch us or listen to us on YouTube or Spotify or many other outlets. And don't forget to follow us on social media. See you next Monday.